Namaskar. In continuation to our second Mahavidya, Matara, we are in between the discussion of how the powers of Kali are different from that of Matara and how the powers of Matara finally evolves and transforms into the needed or desired self. Over to you, sir.
We were discussing the powers that people try to develop in worship of Tara. One of the capabilities that comes out of this process of Tara is overcoming of fear, especially fear of death. Because some of the sadhanas of Tara involve visualization of the cremation ground, and those who are more adventurous may actually do this in the cremation ground. So when you stay in the cremation ground for a long time, the dead body, death, they become very normal. Our defense of denial is no longer able to operate. Because usually all of us, we employ a manic defense, a defense of manic denial. That on one hand, we deny the fact of our death. On the second hand, we use reaction formation to overcome the fear and sadness of our death by going into a high. So this manic denial is no longer able to operate, and we have no choice but to accept death and undergo the anxiety and the mourning it may entail as a result of the realization. So one thing you overcome is the denial of death, the fear of death. The second part is overcoming of ambivalence, which is true for practically all the Mahavidyas except the Saumyamas. In all the Ugra Mahavidyas, one thing is common, that is overcoming of fear, overcoming of the paranoid schizoid split, and overcoming of lack of discrimination and a very profound reality acceptance. Because all the Ugra Mahavidyas, they seem very Ugra, very difficult, and yet they are benevolent, they are giving us powers, they are giving us protection. And therefore, we have to bridge the split of the good parts and the seemingly difficult parts. And it creates a very strong ambivalence. So one of the capabilities we develop is to overcome and navigate through this ambivalence. And a very acute sense of discrimination, Vivek. Then we develop a profound reality acceptance. And that leads slowly to unconditional happiness and unconditional love. It also has a bearing on the relationship to women in society. Because here you are dealing with extremely powerful women. And that has a very strong bearing on how we deal with very powerful and strong women. Especially when the omnipotent projections have been there on the mother or caregivers, and they appear very difficult to, not difficult, but let me say unmanageable, because difficult to deal with on parity, difficult to dominate, and the constant fear of being dominated. So this capability of being in a state of power in the presence of an other state of power, even larger than us. So how to be in a state of power in the presence of somebody who has more power than us? That also is a capability that you
What
did.
if we say that it is to see beyond the role of just the mother in the social context? That when we see the Soumya ones, they are all almost in the role of just nurturing and providing, while the Ugra ones are beyond mother. They are into action of many other things. So seeing the mother, whole mother, not just as mother, but with many other aspects also, that of a warrior, that of many other things, beyond seeing beyond mother, and that ambivalence
Yeah.
we imbibe into the social context.
I used to call it the other of the mother. So
True.
here we are dealing with the masculine aspect of the mother.
Right, right.
The difficult to accept masculine part of the female. And that masculine part is not just masculine in the sense of behavior, it is so powerful that it can destroy you. So we are dealing with extremely masculine and powerful women who also have an extremely strong maternal and feminine side to them. So that capability also develops because most of us are not comfortable with powerful women. We are not comfortable with threatening women, women who can kill and devour. So how do you develop liking, love, self-assurance, confidence, fearlessness, courage in the face of such women and in face of such power? It's more the power than the women actually. So these are the capabilities, the powers, apart from some mystical powers, which appear more like magic. So some people talk about powers over Panch Mahabhut. Some people talk about for each Mahavidya, there is a list of mystical powers to be developed. And this varies from school to school what they say. But this is a list of mystical powers, like powers over Panch Mahabhut, powers over stopping something, powers over controlling somebody's mind, power over killing somebody from a distance without the use of ordinary means, just by the tantric means. So this is another list of mystical powers which we are not going into at present because it's very confusing. There are different lists for different Mahavidyas and they differ from school to school. So without going into that controversy, we just make a mention of the point that apart from the powers that we are talking about, there is another list of mystical powers and there is one list for each Mahavidya, which people try to develop in their worship of that Mahavidya.
So bringing the spirituality, spiritual understanding of Mahavidya to the psychoanalytical point of view, how do we see this Mahavidya of Matara?
So from a psychoanalytic point of view, we can put two questions. Which psychological phenomena are being addressed by this Mahavidya process?
Ji.
And if you want to go beyond psychoanalysis, we can also talk about the chakra.
That would be interesting too.
So if we go from that, let us start from the rock bottom. The first Mahavidya Kali addresses the problems of the death instinct, the raw, pure death instinct, pure inertia, and partly addresses the Kleinian problem of the early life split open and the savage aggressive movements in the mind, which may involve deflection of death instinct, fantasies of aggression, the fear of the attack of the bad breast, attack on the bad breast. So this is the first one, Kali. Now, in case of Tara, we are looking at first the paranoid schizoid integration, because all Ugra Mahavidyas will open the split, no doubt about it. So bridging the split in the face of a stressor is something that you will develop in all the Ugra Mahavidyas, the way they are depicted. And also in case of Tara. Second capability one develops is the overcoming the fear of death. The third capability is of very early period of Oedipus, and we have to take here the Oedipus of Klein, not of Freud, because the Freudian will be at 4 to 5 years. This is much earlier. If we go by Klein, the Oedipus would be at 2.5 years. And if we go slightly earlier than that, we would be looking at a proto-Oedipus, Kleinian proto-Oedipus. And that Kleinian proto-Oedipus, along with the aggressive forces, will be addressed by this Devi Tara, the Upasana of this Devi Tara. The cognitive part of not overgeneralization and making a note of everything that as it is without generalization or cover up. That cognitive part also develops here because we try to find benevolence in this difficult figure. So the schema purified of overgeneralization, the schema purified of selective attention, that cognitive capability develops and the Agnya Chakra is addressed. The heart center, so once in the Agnya Chakra, you have first a sense of discrimination. Once you have the recognition of the contrary, that there is a contradictory things exist in that person before you, that Devi before you, that the Devi seems so dangerous, blood is flowing from her weapons. She lives in the cremation grounds making very horrifying sounds. She sits on the corpse and there are fires burning all around. It's almost like a whole city has been converted into a crematorium. Fires are burning all around and Tara is howling in a horrifying way and jackals are making their sounds around the crematorium. That is the depiction. So in that depiction, definitely we overcome the fear part of it, the repulsion part of it, that we feel revulsion towards crematorium and everything else. So when we talk of overcoming attachment and revulsion, the revulsion is overcome. And the attachment naturally loosens out, eases out, because you are seeing death every time. So the tantric dictum is, whenever you feel attached to anybody, think of him in the crematorium, because he's going to be there one day. And the moment you make this visualization, attachment drops, if not completely, at least by some amount. And you get more prepared for separation and mourning, because you're acknowledging it every moment of your life. Then we come to the attachment training, the aspect of love and attachment. That after profound acceptance happens at the cognitive level, at the level of schema, then slowly love can develop, liking can develop, and then love can develop. So first, acceptance develops first, then liking develops, and then love develops, and then unconditional love develops. And all of this is at the heart center. So the capacity to love, that develops in this sequence. Then courage develops. After that, a very important element of ego strength develops. In fact, ego strength develops much before love can develop. Because if the ego strength is not there, you are constantly terrified. It's only after the ego strength has been adequately developed that you can actually do the acceptance, liking, love, and unconditional love. Another important element that comes up psychoanalytically speaking is what I call adult analysis of the mother. That usually
Mother as in the real mother, or the idol mother?
from the idol mother to our mother.
Okay.
The capacity develops with the idol mother, and then it goes to other mothers. So usually the mother is analyzed in terms of what happened in the childhood. We don't do, usually speaking, the adult analysis of the mother as an adult. So we don't go into what made her do what she did, what were her circumstances, and how much of it is coming from her pathology, her ignorance, and how much of it is willful. So when we sit with this idol, Tara, and we have this ambivalence, from a distance we start analyzing as an adult the mother. And this capacity to analyze the mother as an adult, not only as a child who is expecting the mother to be a good mother and who gets traumatized when the mother is not a good mother. Instead of that, if we deal with the mother as an adult, knowing fully well that any other adult is not obliged in any way to behave the way we wish him to behave. And why should we take to heart what comes? Why not subject it to a filter and to analysis what is coming from outside? And why not respond to it as an adult? So this engaging with the mother as an adult is a capacity that we develop here, which we can then, if we wish to, take to our own real mother. One more important element is of integration, which we have talked about, bridging the split and integrating at all levels. Because in Mahavidyas, we find acute ambivalences where integration is a core task. After that, we look at transcendence, which is not strictly speaking a psychoanalytic phenomenon, except in Jung. In Jung does talk about transcendence. That after we go into analysis of the opposites, a resolution happens and we rise above them. The opposites don't cease to exist, but we are not affected by them as much as we would be before. So we are into a position of transcendence. We are not into a traumatized position in face of an ambivalence. So this is a very important element, that we transcend the duality of good and evil, and we normalize it and we go above it. And after that, the optimization starts. That first, we intellectually accept. The first part is reality, profound reality acceptance, that this is how reality is. It affects us, but we accept it. We accept the fact that what cannot be cured has to be endured, kind of thing. And we have to do the best to protect ourselves and manage it the best way we can. And then we rise above it into transcendence. But there we don't feel like having much to do with this duality. And then comes the point of optimization, that we come down again to optimize this duality for a purpose. So the duality doesn't go away, but we change inside of us from profound acceptance to transcendence to optimization. So now we are in the situation where on demand we can be free and not engaged with it, and on demand engaging with it and optimizing it for a purpose. So these are some of the aspects, and from optimizing a paradox, an ambivalence, an intense ambivalence, in this process, we develop a generic capability of transcendence and optimization in other areas of life. So this is how we look at the psychoanalytic and self-development aspects which we develop in this Tara Mahavidya, apart from a list of mystical powers which we are not going into.
So while working with the human psyche and considering this Mahavidya, if somewhere we can come up with some techniques based on these Mahavidya, which can help in a different light. So what would you be suggesting there, that how it can be designed, or what elements it can contribute to, what parts of psyche would be addressed, or already some are existing which are based very much similar to this?
Incidentally, something exists, not that anybody has tried to learn from Mahavidya and bring it to psychotherapy, but independent of that, incidentally something exists, and that is Rosha, in which you show certain images and you solicit projections and stories from inside, and they are then used to explore the person further and, if possible, heal the person. If not anything else, at least accelerate the therapy. If not that, at least provide confirmatory evidence to what the therapist is finding otherwise. Second coincidence is of therapy by dream analysis. There are some people, very few, but there are some, who do a very unique kind of psychotherapy, where in their sessions they discuss only dreams. It's a dream analysis based psychotherapy. So they are discussing only dreams, and only through dreams they are doing therapy. Rest of the time, when there is no dream or something, somebody is talking something else, that is a minority of the time, a very small component of the time. So this is second coincidental thing of healing psychotherapy by dream analysis. Similarly, we can look at a workshop of psychoanalysis based on Mahavidya, where we can give cards to people, photographs to people of each of the Mahavidya, and tell them the story of each of the Mahavidya, and then ask them to be with the Mahavidya and see what comes up from inside. So the pictures, the stories then become like the Rosha cards. And this is like a super active imagination. We are using the principle of active imagination, but in a very far more comprehensive and broader way, expansive way. So this workshop will be a very interesting workshop. And we can use Mahavidyas, their stories, their powers, and see what all comes up from inside related to each Mahavidya. And through the workshop, we can achieve gradual desensitization, bridging the split to the extent possible, overcoming the fear of death, development of courage, exploration of art for self-healing, active living without fear of psychosis, because we are almost inviting a not a proto, but a pre-psychotic state of living with the deity. And through that, we can try to focus on difficulties related to the death instinct, fear of death, aggression, Oedipus, projections related to relating to women or relating to men, whatever they are. And thereby this whole attachment pattern. So we can use this entire Mahavidya process as a enabler for a workshop, which to some extent will bring about some quick and intense cognitive, if not affective changes, and start the affective process at a deeper level.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vedya. We're connecting further ahead in our upcoming sessions of Mahavidya. Enriching discussions yet again. Hope you all enjoyed it too. See you again in coming episodes on Mahavidya. Namaste.
Namaste.